What's up, Facebook Live? Thanks so much for jumping on with us tonight. A lot of comments. We'll jump to in a second. So this is Ryan and Sarah Latham. You guys can say hi if you want to.
Hi.
How you doing, everybody?
So we worked together starting nine years ago.
9 years ago.
9 years ago we started working together, and then we didn't work anymore. But we still do work together. So the last 2 years we brought them in. Last year we did the DISC, which is a different assessment, and then this year our staff retreat we did the Enneagram. And now that there's a bunch of people on staff.
Last year I came out by myself, and you said that was okay, and then you said you need to bring the real reason.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that.
And it was much better this year.
It was way better this year. So
I don't want to say that publicly, but yes, that's true. So, and it was so good. It was so
Thanks.
helpful, and we're like a month out, and that's all our staff talks about.
Wow.
And so it's been very helpful, and just the way that we communicate with each other. And so some of you already know. So like we got a lot of wrong stuff.
7s, 1, 8.
So you can tell the people, you guys can see this one. You can tell the people that are like real into it because they put their wings on it, right?
Yes.
People that know what they're talking about
Yes.
put the wings, and people that are just getting in.
Jason Springer, you're an A? I knew it. I knew it.
Okay. See,
Alex is a 2.
Alex Moore's a 2, which is a little surprising, but it's okay. I can see it. I can see it for sure.
Christy, Rachel, someone 9?
Who? Rachel? Yeah.
What's Zach?
I don't know. I don't think
Hey,
he
Rachel, tell me what Zach is.
Okay. David Donaldson, 2. For sure, a 2. For sure.
There's a bunch of people.
It's awesome. I love the exclamation points after. This is what I
See,
am.
those are the
I'm
people,
so happy
and
to
like
be
the
this.
emoji. You know, you get like some good faces.
Oh, there's
there.
one.
8s don't do emojis.
8s don't do emojis because it's too much.
It's too much emotion,
just
and it's
emotion,
kind of
yeah.
a waste of time.
There's not a lot of emotion.
You just need to get to the point and move on.
But the 4s will give you probably a GIF. Actually, a 4 will probably give you a GIF. Emoji's not quite enough for a 4. Okay. So we got quite a bit of variety out there right now with some
yeah,
1s,
all
2s.
We got 9s, 5, 8, 1, 2.
It's all over the place.
6 wing 5 or 5 wing 6. He doesn't even know. So well, Josh,
That's Josh. How do you not know? We
spent like
6 hours
time
together.
on this.
Still
Okay, but the thing is, he's a 5, and so he's still researching and studying to figure out exactly.
But is
which one it
Anson
is.
no longer confused?
But that's
He's
it's
still
Anson.
confused.
He's still confused.
He's going to stay
Yeah.
confusing. But I would say if we're a month after and Josh is not sure if he's a 6 wing 5 or 5 wing 6.
I think he
certainly
proved.
5.
No, I think he's exactly. I think we're a month out. He still proves that he's a 5.
He's a
Actually,
5.
yeah.
Okay.
So Josh just figured you out, man.
So there's a lot of you that you're watching right now, and you have no idea what the heck we're talking about.
Why are we talking about numbers?
And so wings, it all feels really stupid to you, and that's okay. It felt really stupid to me up until a few months ago, and now it's like part of our everyday language. So, and then a lot of people like Christians shouldn't take Enneagram. So first of all, what the heck is the Enneagram?
That's a great question. I don't know.
That's why we brought Sarah. Sarah,
won't you answer?
So the Enneagram is an ancient personality typing system, and the origins are kind of unclear because they're super, super old. Like some writings go back to Pythagoras, like the Pythagorean theorem Pythagoras, and other people say that it goes back to like Christian monks, and so it's just been around for a really long time and all over the world. But in the 70s, it came to America, and then there were some people at Loyola Seminary, and they started turning it into or using it for spiritual transformation in a Christian setting. So today we can look at it as Christians and see how it lines up with the gospel and how knowing about ourselves and knowing about God can enrich our relationships with each other and with Him. It's not like a crazy weird thing, even though the symbol's kind of interesting if you've seen it. It just means
which is exactly what got me when I first was introduced to this thing. I saw
looks weird.
the symbol and these numbers, and people were talking, and it sounded kind of like
because
out there.
Yeah.
The people that think yoga is sinful
Yeah.
also think the Enneagram is sinful. So I'm not mad at those people. I'm not mad at them. I'm just saying. So it doesn't. Nobody even knows the origin, right?
It's wide, highly debated and talked about.
There's just a
for
lot
sure.
of information because it's so old.
Okay. So.
But we do know for sure that it's been around in monk circles, Christian, Catholic communities for centuries. It's been around in religious, faith-based communities for centuries and centuries. We know that for sure.
At some point, it was sanctified, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
so
sure.
we're good. Sold. Okay, so there's all these numbers. So talk about like how do we get these numbers and what do these numbers mean?
Well, let me start with this. So in 1 Corinthians 12, we talk about the body.
Good, use scripture.
Okay, we talk about the body. Okay, I figured we got to get it somewhere. So it talks about the body, right? And so a lot of times people are like, well, I don't want to be put in a box. I don't want to be like limited. You know, I've got a friend that's just like, man, don't put me in this box. Like I'm just me. Like I don't want to be this number. I don't want to be this thing. And I'm just me. And the very fact that he was saying that proves the number that he is. But I didn't want to tell him that. So anyway, but you know, in 1 Corinthians 12, it talks about the body, and that the body has all kinds of different parts, right? In that there's the arm, and there's the leg, there's the head, there's the mouth, and the body has all these different parts, but it comes together. And so, but it's important for the arm to know that it's an arm.
True.
And so it doesn't try to speak, and that the mouth knows what it's supposed to do. It doesn't walk, right? And so I think the Enneagram helps us to begin to kind of figure out a little bit about what our strengths are, our weaknesses, and what we give and bring to the body, right? Like we were talking about Josh being a 5, right? Like the guy has just an innate God-given ability to research and find information and study that for me as a 3 is just draining. I mean, it just takes the life out of me. And so I need him, and just as much as he needs me, to push him forward and say, look, we need to move the ball forward. Here's some goals for that information. Like actually like use it and like let's achieve something. And so I think that scripture clearly talks about the fact that we need to bring our gifts in. But part of that is the Enneagram helps us to know what those gifts are.
Sure, that's good.
And so oftentimes people say, well, I don't want to be boxed. Say, well, how about you know what God created you to do, and then you give that to the church, and we can come together and work together. And so, Augustine said this. He said, "Grant, Lord, that I may know myself, that I may know Thee." And so what he's saying there is that the more I know myself, the more I know God, because we are in the likeness of God, right? And so when we understand, we study how God created her and how God created you and God created me, we begin to see a beautiful picture of God, because we are all, the likeness of God is not in one person, but it's in the collection of us. And so that did not answer your question at all, but
it was so good.
I figured I would share it.
Sir, he studied since the last month. He didn't
Yes.
say that. That was good.
I know.
That was good. He's studying.
I figured I had to
He
have
had
something.
to up his game
For
for
sure.
the second time around.
Okay, and so, here's something else that's cool. I'm gonna throw this out there a couple times tonight. April 1st, right? Is that right, Robin? Is that the date? The leadership night. April 1st. They're gonna be doing Enneagram.
Is that April
stuff.
Fool's Day?
Yes.
So it's like a joke, like we're going to show up, there's nobody there.
That would be a pretty well planned April Fool's joke, but no, it's
All right.
real.
Okay.
And so April 1st, they'll be at both of our locations right now. Newcastle won't. I mean, Chickasha won't be open yet. So they'll be at both of our locations doing leadership. We'll flip a coin to see who gets Sarah. Okay, so and here's a cool thing. When you guys,
I'm
did
guessing
this,
that whoever loses gets me. Is that what we're saying?
No, that's not what I said.
That's
at all.
what you're-
That's not what I said at all.
I think that's what
You
you're
said
saying.
that. I didn't say that. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into it April 1st. So love to have all you guys show up at one of our campuses there. But the cool thing, like what you're talking about with the body of Christ, when we broke the staff out, like we're all super diverse too. And I know in our church it's gonna be the same. We're all super diverse. So it's really cool to see kind of everybody playing the roles. And frankly, when I looked at some staff, and probably they're watching right now, so I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but some stuff I was like, that makes sense now. For sure. Like there's some stuff that I didn't understand about certain people that when we kind of broke this out, like there's some people that I feel like it takes them a little bit too long to respond.
Yeah.
And maybe I send them an email or a text message. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, like I just ask you simple, like. But now I realize, no, they're 5. They have
Right.
to do
You
this.
understand why. And that's what's
Yes.
great about the Enneagram too, is that it's actually looking at motivations and not just behaviors. Because different numbers could actually display the same behavior, but have completely different motivations behind that. And so that's what you were being able to see in some of the behaviors you saw. You could then understand what the motivation was behind it.
And it was awesome.
It's great.
So tell us a little bit more. Why should somebody take a test? How do they take a test? And then kind of break down the numbers.
So the Enneagram has 9 different numbers. So it's 1 through 9. And each number is for a different personality type. And there's all different kind of characteristics and descriptions about each one. And again, like I just said, it has a lot to do with your motivation and not so much with just outward behavior. So
And that's something that is unique to the Enneagram versus other assessments. Okay, so like I do DISC assessment a lot, as you know, and we did that last year. But one thing that's really unique that I think is a unique value that the Enneagram gives is that it's not just measuring just internal stuff like some or just external things like some.
Sure.
The Enneagram really does marry those two and says we're going to bring the external behaviors and the internal motivators and show you both. So I think that's something that the Enneagram does bring unique, unlike a lot of assessments.
Sure.
for sure, yeah. So the 1 through 9 are the main characteristics. And then if you've ever heard people talk about wings, that's kind of like a subtype characteristic that you could also lean into. And so a wing has to be touching your main number. So if you're a 2, then you could have either a 1 or a 3 wing, but you wouldn't have a 7 wing. So it has to actually touch that
Like
number.
initially, so I was an 8, but my second highest on the test was a 1. So I was like, I'm an 8 wing 1, and people are like, oh, that's not even possible.
You're like, that's not a thing. You can't,
Yeah, so
you can't
I
see
mean,
that.
so the confusion there, and that happens a lot. A lot of people, especially when you take, depending on what assessment you take, it'll give you like percentages of like, well, you're 90% 3, and 80% 7. So like, well, I'm a 3, 7, right? But really, what that is like we really are. We have some elements of all the numbers.
Sure.
Right, but then there's those primaries, and again, depending on what assessment you take, some kind of do that differently, and so. But keep going.
Well, I mean, the best way to really find out what your number is to start studying the Enneagram and read some things about it, or like listen to what we're saying tonight and see what clicks with you and what matches your motivation.
And you think that's more accurate than taking the test?
I do. And a test can be kind of like a starter point, but if you don't really feel like it sits right with you, you don't have to wear that number, as your forever number.
The test doesn't define you. You get to
It doesn't
decide.
define you. Yeah.
Well, I think the test is a great starting point to
Yeah.
at least get a baseline of saying, okay, well, for example, like for you, it's like, okay, well, I've got this 8 or I've got this, and so you can kind of do some more research or have Josh do it for you, have a 5 help you with that, right? But like
He'll go back to me in 3 months though.
That's true. That's true. I've moved on. But like it gives you a baseline at least to start the conversation and start, right? And so do you want us to kind of dive into just a high level each of the numbers? So why don't you take a couple?
So type 1, that's me. We're going to start with that. Type 1 is
real fast. You're a 1, you're a
3.
I'm an 8. Christy?
7.
7. Robin?
6.
Good.
6. We got
A pretty good base. A good
Awesome.
mix here.
We have a
5 and 9.
majority
Yeah,
here.
we're
Yeah.
halfway there. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So type 1 is the perfectionist or the reformer.
And just by the way, type 1, this 1 just happens to be first. It doesn't mean it actually is first.
Well, I thought
In
it
this
was
case, in this case, I feel
kind
like
of
it was
awesome
one.
that ones were first.
I'm just saying.
Because we're number 1. So the type 1 really likes to make things right and likes to fix things that are wrong. The type 1 has an inner critic that's kind of this berating voice in our heads that's constantly pointing out things that are wrong with ourselves and with the world around us.
Or your husband, your kids.
Right? So sometimes you got to learn to tone that voice down and tell it to shut up because it can really just get to be too much.
The grammar on the slides during worship.
Well,
and that's actually where,
everybody should criticize that.
yes.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
So that's where that critic can sometimes, it can serve us too. So that critic will tell you, hey, you need to have these things done, or you need to fix this, or you need to plan for this trip by preparing all these things. And you're like, got it, on it, on it, on it. But we like things in their place. Everything has a place. And we can sometimes get a little bit anxious because there's no end to the things that need to be fixed. in the world. If you just look around you, like a type 1 is never going to be able to solve everything. So if you don't actually realize that, then you can have kind of a stressful life.
What about number 2?
So the 2 is the sweetheart of the Enneagram. The 2 wants to be loved and needed by other people. And so they will serve and say yes to everything, and sometimes not have really good boundaries if they are serving other people to fill a need in themselves. But they are, they're the ones who, you know, when something hard happens in your life, like your type 2 friend is going to show up at your door with a casserole and a puppy because they want to just make you feel good.
Yeah.
Is all day too?
No, he's a 9.
He's a 9. Who are some of the 2s on our staff? Do you guys remember?
Jill,
Brittany, that makes sense.
Pastor David.
David, oh yeah.
Yeah, David's a
You had a
lot of your
high
chicken shit people
2
are.
Yeah, all of our
representation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except then there's one.
So if you
there's
live
one
in Syria, you say a lot of casseroles. Casseroles and puppies every night.
a lot of food being delivered there.
That's cool.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about the one that everybody wants to be.
Oh.
The real focus of the Enneagram.
Okay, so you're pretty proud of your 3. So would
Well,
you?
because the 3
Threes
is
are
really what
proud
everybody wants to
of
be.
themselves.
So let me ask you, and this is I actually want to ask you this because I felt like when we talk about my son, like I'm an 8, I want him to be an 8. So do most people, like, do they actually think that their number is better? Because I feel like mine is. Like, I feel like I want my son to be an 8 because I think it's the best.
They don't. Some people, when they take a test
No.
or they realize what their type is, they're really bummed about it because they're looking at all the negatives and maybe that's kind of what is highlighted to them, and they're super bummed. Like, I don't want to be this number. But then there are some who you're super excited to be an 8. I was super thrilled to find out that I was a 1. I was like, 1s are great. I'm so happy this is me.
Yeah. And then
You
I
love
I was
Three.
thrilled
well,
to find out he
because-
was a 3.
Well, yeah, because everyone wants to be a 3,
That's what he thinks.
Aren't 3s like
the achievers. So we actually get
they're
stuff
also
done.
the deceivers, right? Like they're like.
Well, I would not use that word.
Okay, that's fine. But, okay, well, it's fine. No, I understand you wouldn't. But
I mean,
just
as
saying
someone
that
who's jealous of them not being a 3, I can get why you would use that word. But
I'm just researching. So what's the 3? Tell us about yourself. Tell us about how great you are. Go ahead.
okay, why don't you tell about 3 and I'll fill in anything you miss.
So 3s, that's the achiever or the performer. So they're the ones who are gonna always appear confident about whatever they're talking about, even if they have no idea what they're talking about. They're gonna put on this front to make people believe a certain thing about themselves. Now they typically they have an ability to read the room, so they can tell what people want to think of them, and then they morph into that. So they're kind of like chameleons. It's not so self-serving as it is they're trying to be who you want, and they can just read the room.
So like a great networker, right? So somebody that
Yeah.
can come in and say, look, you know, I can come with you as an 8, and I can be a little bit more strong, I can be a little more direct, but I can easily go over to like a 2 and be a little bit more softer and a little bit more compassionate, right? Or go to a 4 and be a little bit more artistic, a little bit more creative, right? And so like I'm being able to people, and it's not really hard for me to do that. I can like easily kind of adapt, right? Paul said, I go,
Get spiritual.
right? And like with the Gentiles, I'd be like a Gentile into it, right? So I'm just saying, Paul even referenced that you should be like a 3.
Jesus was an 8, I think. Jesus was an 8. I'm
You,
sure.
You think so?
Jesus was
When he
I
flipped
think
the tables,
Jesus
All of
is
them.
when he
the
flipped the tables, he was an 8. But
Okay,
whatever.
all
right.
We'll get that later.
is all of them.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So a 3 loves achievements, right? So like 3s are never gonna throw away their like medal that they got in 3rd grade.
No.
You know, like I have a gigantic T-shirt collection of like I ran this 3K and like I still have it because it's like, you know,
From
I-
when he was 11.
yeah, 11. You know,
Yeah.
so like I have all these like everything.
Let it go.
I earned that.
But it's like a trophy to him. It's
'Cause
an
it is a
achievement.
trophy.
It is, I know. And he doesn't want to forget those things.
You should. 3Ks are important.
It is.
3s do get stuff done. American culture runs on 3s and really celebrates 3s, whether that's healthy or an unhealthy state, but 3s make stuff happen.
4s.
Yeah, enough about you. What's a 4?
I mean, we can keep going if you
No,
want.
you're good,
Okay.
you're good.
Type fours are the individualists and the romantics. So those are going to be like your artists. There's a ton of artists and artistic people who are fours.
They're upset when they find out other people are fours because they like to be individual.
Because they want to be an individual, yes. They want to be unique and special, but they have this feeling inside that they're missing something that everyone else has, and they can't put their finger on it. So there's kind of like this sad missing part in the life of a four. They're also, which is really interesting, is that they're comfortable with sadness. So melancholy that's not like a thing that they're trying to get out of feeling. They're okay with just sitting in sadness or just sitting on, in a cloudy, rainy day and writing a new song.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're having a really hard time, maybe a death in the family, a four is a great person just to come and just sit with you. And they're not
going to try to fix you.
They don't have this sense of like, just get over it, man. Like, let's move on. Like they'll just rest with you and just be with you. And just be there.
Just in. Rita Springer's a four.
Not surprised.
I can so see that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, she's got a lot of deeply emotional songs, right?
Take the head of our enemy.
Yeah.
Four. Just not realized.
But a lot of worship people, a lot of creative people, a lot of poets,
Loads of four.
authors will be because they have this ability to get deep into these emotions and pull out these artistic language that like a 3 or an 8 is probably not going to have, right?
Fours are
and a
all
5's
about
going to
their
have like
emotions.
data, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
They like their big
fours,
emotions.
Okay, 5s. We've talked about the 5s a little bit, but what do we got?
So 5 is the investigator. So that's the person who's going to research everything way past the time that it needs to be researched, because they want to find out everything about everything before they make a decision. So they're really good at being analysts and just finding out information and knowledge. They just have a ton of knowledge stored in their head, and they can sometimes be slow in coming to a conclusion because they don't feel like they ever know enough to make that decision.
Yeah, so for example, if you've got to research, for example, a building project, or you want something at your office, or you're doing something at your home and you want to get some information, get a 5 around, because they're going to research that thing they're going to figure out everything about it. Now, it may take longer than an 8 would want, but they're going to research it a ton, love it, and just they're going to feel so alive finding this information for you.
So let me tell you what the 5s on my staff really helped me with.
Oh yeah.
Not having to do things twice.
Oh, that's for sure.
And so nothing from a 5 probably comes quite as quick as I hope. But the stuff I get from other people, I'm not saying, or even, I'll just say the stuff I do myself. Or from Chrissy's people. But really, stuff I get from I want to push so fast, I end up maybe going a little bit too quick and then have to redo stuff because I didn't do the proper research. I went too quick. And so guys like Josh Dunn, who, spend so much time researching our whole volunteer system. Well, we've been pushing too fast for 6 years. Well, he comes in and spends a lot of time. Sorry. Now it's a lot better. Nick, he's doing all of our building projects. And so, this has gone. This chicken shit one has been very smooth because there's a lot of thoughtfulness put into it. He knows before he makes a decision, and so and then I know now when I'm talking to him, he's got all the data. So
you don't really have to question. Well, where'd you get that? Well, you're gonna know.
Yeah, he studied.
You're gonna know.
Yeah, you can trust a 5.
Yeah.
What about 6?
Robin's
6.
people.
Robin's people.
So they say that that 6 is the most highly represented number in the world.
Wow.
Yeah,
which is weird because that was the fewest I think on our staff, right?
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So type 6 is the loyalist, or sometimes it's called devil's advocate. So they're the ones who they're going to stick with their people, but they're also going to bring up those opposing views, and they're going to ask questions about them in order to protect their people. So they're really trying to make their team or the person they're in relationship with see all of the sides so that they make the best decision. And
so they'll ask a lot of what if questions. Well, hey, I'm going on vacation. Well, what if? what if this happens, or what if this happens, and they want to ask a lot of those. These are the people that have a plan for the zombie apocalypse at all times. You know what I mean? Like, these are the people that know where the exits are. These are also the people that when they walk into a room, they typically want to know who the strongest person is, or like who they're going to go to if something happens, right? So they're going to know who the security guards are. They're going to know where the exits are. They're going to know. So, for example, like if you want your security to be enhanced at the church, ask a 6, because they're going to figure out, well, what if this happens at this? They're going to figure that stuff out.
They're good at risk management.
Yeah.
I'll protect you guys.
I think
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
they're saying, Robin, is you're scared of a lot of stuff, and so because you're scared of a lot, you have to figure out how to protect yourself.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely to calm their own fears. That's why they're questioning everything, and they have a plan A, B, and C, because if something goes wrong, then they've got.
But again,
to
they're
have something
thinking through that stuff, and they're thinking logically. And again, we need that. Otherwise,
Sure.
we just blindly go into all these things. But they say, but they're going to, again, they're going to be the kind of people that slow you down a little bit and say, okay, look, I know you have a great plan. I know you have a great vision. I know you have, but what if? And
Yeah.
for people like me as a 3, you as an 8, that just like drives us batty, because we're like, well, let's just go.
Yeah.
But that 6 is going to say, well, but what if?
Yeah.
And we're like, well, but no, like, let's just go. But it's like, no, we need those people to slow us down a little bit. As a business owner, you need people to say, look, you've got a great plan, right? But what if? And those are the people that are going to do that. So
Yeah.
let's go to 7s.
Type 7s are
The fun.
They are the fun. They're the enthusiasts, and they love
party.
they love adventure, they love spontaneity, they love variety. They do not want to be bored, and they really don't want to live down in like the lower half of emotions, like the sad half. They want to live in the high half of emotions. So they'll take something negative and quickly spin it to a positive, because they don't want to sit in that low space.
Yeah.
Well, did you say they're defensive in arguments?
I don't think we're going to get into that here.
Well, you look, I was just
Is that in
asking.
the comments?
No,
Is that
I
in
was
the
just
comments?
asking. It was just a real question about
Eights
7s.
are jerks.
Yeah. So, for example, let's go back to the other. Say there's a death in the family, something like that. Something hard comes up. If you want to stay there and you don't want somebody to like move you forward, bring a 4 over. Have them come over and just sit with you. But if you want someone to say like, let's move forward, like, hey, let's get you out of the house. Like, bring your 7 friend over, right, or your child or your friend that's a 7, and they're gonna like bring life and energy to that environment and kind of like help move it forward. Not that they can't sit there with you, but they're gonna bring a little bit more energy and a little bit more excitement.
They're going to take you to the movies. They're going to get you out of the house.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're going to go
Yeah.
do something. The 7s are always up for an adventure, right? So you're just bored on a Saturday, call a 7, they'll figure out what to do because they're not bored.
So funny.
Yeah. What about the 8s?
Yeah.
So you want to tell us about 8s? 8s are the challengers.
Yeah, I mean they're just like they're
Imagine
just
that.
they're just great people. No, tell us about the 8s.
8s they're very strong, intense personalities. Sometimes you can literally feel in the room the intensity from an 8. They're going to be very driven and very passionate about what they're into. If they're not into something, then they're not going to put any energy into it. They also have a lot of energy, so they can go and go and go for a long time before having to recharge. They have the most amount of energy on the Enneagram.
Would you say they would be the most likely to yell at a referee at a kid's sporting event?
Or get kicked out.
Absolutely. But with good intention, because the 8s
Yeah.
want to protect themselves and those in their tight inner circle. 8s really don't want to be betrayed, so they have a tight inner circle, and if you are blessed to be let into the inner circle of an 8, like that's a high honor.
Yeah, and they'll defend their people.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
true.
And
We do
so-
defend our people.
Yeah, but they're the challengers. So these are the people that, again, their energy introduces them before they do. And so when they walk into the room, you can just feel an energy
See,
about
but I
them.
feel like that's not it for me. I mean, I know everybody's a little bit different.
Of course,
but-
you don't, but everyone else,
Oh,
I
yeah.
guarantee you, would say they can feel
They can
you
feel your
in
presence.
walking your
Yep.
presence before you even walk into the room.
100%.
Okay, let's move on.
You don't mean to be intimidating. That's not the heart behind it.
No, it's not.
All right, the 9s.
Can I say my nickname for 8s, or is that off limits?
Your what?
My nickname for the 8s that I came up with?
No. I don't think that's a good idea.
Not appropriate?
Probably not.
Okay,
I can probably
Really
already tell
smart
you.
to
it's
check.
not. All right,
Okay.
number 9. 2 9s.
Nines are the peacemakers. They are the ones
Sumolade.
Yep.
These are not.
who they're great mediators because they can see every side of a situation. They can understand different people's perspectives, and they really do not want tension in their relationships. So they're going to do everything to keep the peace and to keep everything kind of calm, like calm waters. They're just not going to rock the boat at all. And that might even come at the expense of not bringing up their own opinions or saying what they really want.
But these are great mediators. These are
Yep.
people that love people. They love to serve people as well. So sometimes like 2s and 9s can maybe get, because they both really want to serve people and really want to give of themselves. They're very selfless people, and so they really, these are the people that. Hey, do you want to go to Chick-fil-A for lunch, or you want to go to whatever, Whataburger, right? I don't care. And they really
Well, what do you
don't.
want?
And they really,
They're going to deflect.
because they really do want, they want to go where you want to go. Like they want to be with you, and so they don't want to cause the tension because they really don't care most of the time. So like with a 9, for example, if you have a 9 child, one thing one of our sons is a 9, and so often we have to say like, no, like we really do want you to express yourself.
Yep.
So a lot of times we'll let him just kind of go with the flow because he generally does.
Yeah.
But there are times where we have to say, no, look, you are valuable and your opinion is valuable.
Yeah, and
so
we
like,
wanna know what it is.
we do want you to know. Like we do want you to express yourself.
So you talk about your own kids. How has this helped you guys with raising kids? And I think when we were in Florida, actually, we started kind of trying to figure out with our kids. Like, it was beginning of the year this year. And then even after you guys came and talked to our staff, I think we got a little bit more intentional of, and we feel like this could really, really help us with our raise our children, and better. And so kind of talk about how it plays out for you personally, and then why all of us probably need to start kind of thinking through, what is our kid and what does that mean to me?
Yeah. So first of all, don't try and typecast all of your children. That's something that they get to do as they grow up.
It's so huge, yeah.
And so what we don't want to do is just like stamp a label on their forehead and say, well, you're this, and then they grow up thinking that they're that, but maybe they really aren't.
The Enneagram's not really designed to be like, well, you're an 8, you're such an 8. It's not like this abusive thing of like, oh, that's such an 8.
No.
Oh man, that's such a 2. Oh my God. It's not this like, I'm gonna put you down. I mean, that's where it's more of a reflective thing than it is necessarily like putting you in a box. Like, well, you can't do this because 7s aren't good at that. It's like, for example, I think I told you the staff this is like the Enneagram is not an excuse to like not be good at life.
Sure.
Or it's not like it's not an excuse to not be good as an employee, or not. It's not like your child gets to be like, well, I'm a 7, so like you can't tell me like do stuff. Like I'm just gonna be creative. Like no, like you still have to do your chores, right? You still do your stuff. So
Absolutely. So while we don't want to just label our kids, as a parent, you can really start to see maybe where their tendencies lie, and you can also kind of see how we could go deeper, maybe on another time, into the Enneagram. But there are certain stances and there are certain triads and associations to time, and those are kind of clues. So we have used those in some of our younger children to kind of try and see what they are, or maybe narrow it down to a few. For our older kids, they actually wanted to take the test. They wanted to learn about it. They've listened to podcasts with us. We talk a lot about it.
Okay, tell us the age of your kids real quick.
Okay, so we have a 15.
mess it up.
Our oldest just turned 15 yesterday, and then we have 13, 9, and 8.
Okay.
So our young teens, they're the ones that were interested. They could understand, they could see what their own motivators are, and actually type themselves.
Yeah. So for example, like just this past Sunday at church, I was talking to a lady, and she was talking about the Enneagram. I said, oh, that's interesting. And she said the Enneagram saved my relationship with my kids.
Wow.
And I said, well, why? And she said, because I was having so much tension with some of my kids.
Yeah.
And I was viewing them as rebellious, as challenging, as they would never just listen to me. And then I got a hold of the Enneagram, and I realized that my son's an 8, and just by nature he's just intense. By nature he's a challenger, and so it's not that he's being rude or that he's being rebellious. It's just that by nature he's going to challenge things, and if I just stand up to him, which is what he wants, then he'll be great.
Yeah.
But if I back down, then he'll run over. And so she just said it saved my relationship to say, oh, okay, it gave me some language to understand him more and understand how to help work with him more. And so she said it just literally saved my relationship with my kids, specifically with him. She mentioned a couple others, just that she began to have language, and that's what I find with people is that just helps you have common language. Say, oh, okay, I get you now. Like that's why you are so creative, and it's not that we've got a daughter that is just always creative and always doing different things. And it's like, well, that's part of who she is, and we have to give her that freedom because that's part of who she is.
Yeah.
And so I think that, like what you're saying, it's not to put them in a box, but it's to help you know how to communicate better with them.
And to help your kids get along with each other. So we speak Enneagram in our house, so our kids understand the language, and what the hope is that they can have compassion for different personalities and not be frustrated because somebody is different than they are.
Okay, say that again, because I think that's like the key with kids. Say what you just said again.
Yes, so we want our kids to have compassion for their siblings and for other people outside of our home who are different and have different personalities, and not be frustrated with them because they're not exactly the same. And that's, what a life skill that is, because they're gonna, leave the house where everything is kind of similar in your home, even with different personalities, but they're gonna go out into the world and meet all these different people and have to work with different people and interact with people and be really frustrated that, this person doesn't make a decision as quickly as I do, or that person is over there, looking at the flowers and we're supposed to be doing something else. Sure. And that can lead to really looking down on people, and that's obviously not what we want. So we want our kids to see that God made these unique personalities on purpose, and there's good in all of them.
It's really great. Okay, so Rachel asked a question. Do you want to say anything more about kids?
That's good.
Okay. We go for it.
So Rachel asked a question. She said, can you talk about how your number is a coping mechanism from your childhood, or is that even true?
So it's the jury's kind of out on if it's nature versus nurture. A lot of what I've read leans toward it being nature, so that you're actually born with this inherent personality and your Enneagram type. Now, it can be shaped really differently through life experiences. So, of course, if you're throwing trauma into that, especially as a child, that's going to look really, really different and might actually look confusing as to what number you are. But within each number, there is this varying degree of healthy to moderate to unhealthy. And so we're all working towards trying to be healthy and whole. And that's where we put Jesus into this, and we can all work from where we are in an unhealthy state and move towards wholeness and health.
That's great. So a lot of people are like Christy, where they took a test and it came back and said you're 95% this, but we actually think, even though you were 87% whatever, we actually think you're this one.
Yeah.
And so your percentage are a little bit off, and so you're like, well, if I'm 97% this, why would I not be this?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One, I think being a person of faith, there's a lot of times where we read some of these things and we try to answer it as if like, well, what's like the good Christian answer? Sure. As opposed to like, right? There's a lot of things about being an 8 that if you misread it, you could say, well, that's not really like a good Christian answer, or, you want to speak about 2s and like women.
Yeah, so being the 2 is the helper and the servant, and that's what we all want to be, because Jesus was a servant. And so a lot of times people can think that they're 2 because they are very giving and they're very serving, but that, remember, is just the behavior. That's not actually the motivator behind it, because 2s very specifically, they serve because they want to feel loved, whereas a 3 might serve for another reason, and 8 might serve for another reason.
Let's talk about how often, especially
In the
like
test?
Christian women.
Sure.
Because especially
Well, and because
Christian
women, we serve just by nature. We serve a ton, and we spend our whole lives serving people. And so a lot of times Christian women can maybe think that they're 2, but that they don't have that same motivator behind it.
Yeah, especially when you have a lot of kids and you're serving your kids so much.
You're like, this is what I do all day,
This is what I
24
do,
hours
right?
a day. I
And
serve.
then- And then also, again, that's where taking the assessment is helpful, but really studying it, talking to an Enneagram coach, talking to someone that knows what they're talking about, because a lot of times, like even with Christy, for example, like she took it, and a lot of times you're in the framework of like at work, or you're at the framework of like at home. And so you can answer very differently based on kind of where the framework of the context of which you're trying to answer it, as opposed to like truly who you are in that moment. And then also that degree of health, right? Like if you take the assessment, you're in like kind of a bad, not healthy spot, like you're probably not going to answer him the best, right? You're trying to answer what you think it should be, as opposed to the way that you really do want.
Great place to start, but it's not the end.
Yeah.
You've got to dig in a little bit.
Kid-friendly test? Is there a kid-friendly test yet?
That I know of.
Okay.
I'm sure they're working on it.
Okay. So
Maybe we will do it. I don't know.
yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So for people, I just want to mention that your kids listen to some podcasts with you. Whether or some resources that people can really dive into this.
It's great to start with. Go back to you and Morgan Cron, and that's an awesome introduction to the Enneagram in very user-friendly language. You can get into a lot of other texts that are really heavy on the psychology side, so they're a little more challenging to read, but the gives so much information. But I would definitely. Beth McCord has a lot of great resources online.
She's just got a new one, a new book come out called Becoming Us, talking about marriages and like how to take your 2 numbers in a marriage context and become us using your 2 numbers, which again, we haven't talked about marriage, but like marriage is just a fantastic environment for the Enneagram, because like on all of our assessments, if it's DISC, if it's love languages, if it's strength finders, we're the opposite. Complete opposite, right? And so that's where I think it's great in marriage, where it's like 2 whole people come together to make a whole person, as opposed to, it's like, we find the wholeness of God in our marriage, because I'm these side and she's this side, and we come together and we find a completeness, where for me it's all about like, let's just go, vision, let's make it happen yesterday. She's like, oh, hold on, like there's steps
Like you forgot.
to make that happen.
You forgot toothpaste.
Yeah, like you forgot your tooth, you know what I mean? But I'm like, well, I'm on the airplane, let's go. But she's like, yeah, but you forgot to pack, so yeah.
So talk about that real quick. Just talk about how it's personally, and I know you guys do marriage counseling, you guys do a lot of great things, but personally, how Enneagrams helped you and how you may use Enneagram to help other couples.
Personally, I enjoy finding out more about myself, because it helps me to know different triggers. Why am I feeling anxious about something? Why am I getting so angry about this? And I can really work on those things. So especially learning as a type 1 that inner critic is just kind of there in my head. I was like, oh yeah, I totally have that. Doesn't everybody have an inner critic in their head? And then I find out, no, they don't. That's just something that's real characteristic to 1s. And so I can start to recognize that voice and go, oh, hold on, that thing is just berating me, and I'm going to tell it to stop, so I can actually move on with my day. And it's also helped me to hear when I become too critical and too judgmental, even if it's just in my head or if it's out loud at my family, or I've just kind of flipped and just gone straight to anger, because that's an emotion that's readily available to me as a type 1. And so it's helped me to just be nicer and just understand, but where is that coming from? Not just the behavior, but why, the motivation.
Yeah,
behind
I was
it.
talking to a guy today about he does productions at a church, and he was talking about how he's a type 1, and for him, he had to realize that he couldn't go to his volunteers and his staff every single Sunday with his list of 10 things that did not go right.
Right.
Every single week.
Yeah.
And so he had to say, okay, I'm just going to bring up one, like the one thing, right?
That's so smart.
And so, although he sees all of them,
Yeah.
for example, we drive past this bank almost at least a couple times a week. We drive past this bank, and I don't care about it. But she the other day was like, "Doesn't that clock drive you crazy?" And I said,
It's never right.
I said, "What are you talking about?" Well, there's
Time is off.
It has 4.
It's a clock tower. So
it's a clock tower,
there's 4 faces on
They're
the
all
star.
different and
they're
they're
all
all
different
wrong.
and they're all wrong. I was like,
Are they working?
They work.
So they're okay.
And they're wrong. And that jumps out at me every single time. And Ryan, he didn't even know.
'Cause
He
I'm,
didn't
like,
even know.
going to
He's
where
like,
I'm going,
I got
right?
something to do. I got another thing to achieve. And I'm like, the clocks are wrong. 4 of them.
Yeah, and so like for me, I think it's really helped me to understand, okay, I am goal oriented, I want to achieve, but like I can't let those achievements define me and define who I am.
Yes.
I need to allow God to define, and like He defines who I am, not my achievements. Like I'm not here to get the praise of man, but the praise of God. And like I need to be honoring God with who I am, and not just finding it. Oh, I finished this marathon. I ran this thing, or I ate this, or I did this, or and that is, if I don't be careful, I will find my identity in those achievements as
Yeah.
opposed to God and what He's created me to do and what He's asking me to do. And so it's helped me to know more about myself. It's helped me to understand her, to know that she has this like inner critic inside of her, to have compassion for her when she's beating herself up. That I don't really understand that as much, but like I need to understand that that's a big part of who she is and something that she has, and that I need to pray for her about that. I need to support her in that, and I need to I need to ask her and to lean into that she can help me with those details. And that it used to just bug me that she knew every little detail. But now I can lean into that and say, okay,
I was
look.
like, hey, can you edit my paper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have so much more grace for you and your t-shirt collection because I know what that means to you.
Yes, thank you.
Deeply.
I earned those.
Okay, so somebody asked this. I don't know if you guys had it. You guys went through a lot of what this question is at the retreat. But somebody said, can you give us a biblical character that best represents each number?
Oh,
Did
gosh.
you bring that?
Okay,
'Cause
I'm
looked
going to
one up
try.
for me.
What's
I
that?
have it.
Robin looked one up for me and put it on here. But
Okay.
If you just
I
want to
have
go
one.
with it.
So
You have the list?
I'm going to try to pull it out of my head
I
as
have it right
best
here
as I
for
can.
you.
Oh, you do?
Well, let's see how good you
All right, yeah, let's test her.
So ones show the goodness of God. Is that what we're talking about?
Well,
The
okay.
biblical characters of
Okay.
each one.
Okay, I tell you what.
Oh,
no.
biblical characters
No.
as in
Biblical
the
characters.
You
people.
do your thing first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yours is.
Okay, I'm going to try to remember the traits that they represent. So ones show the goodness of God, twos the love of God, threes display the power of God, fours display the creativity of God, fives display the wisdom of God, sixes display the faithfulness of God, sevens display the joy of God, eights display the protection of God, and nines display the peace of God. I think
That's pretty impressive.
yeah,
Good work.
yeah.
I've never even heard you do that. That was
Woo!
pretty impressive. Wow.
That is
Come
impressive.
on, girl.
Yeah, actually, so
I got characters.
So
I got
here's
characters.
great. Now, according to where did you get this from? Robin?
Online.
Yeah, of course. Okay, it's online.
Of course, it's true.
Remember
true
earlier
then.
he was bragging about Paul being a 3?
Yes.
No.
In fact, this
No.
says Paul's
I didn't
Paul's
say,
one.
No,
Absolutely.
I didn't say Paul was. I said that
What
Scripture
what
talks
he
about.
said. When I'm with this group, I'm
I
like
didn't say
this
Paul
group.
was.
Yeah, I feel like he was at least insinuating.
I'm just saying that Scripture
Whatever.
talks about threes.
You're one.
For
You're
sure,
Paul.
for sure, Paul was a
Paul's a
one.
1.
Yeah.
For sure.
You got a list?
Yeah, so Paul's a 1. Okay, so yeah, Paul's a 1. He's out to just perfect everything. Like you guys all aren't doing things right. Okay, then we've got number 2s. We've got John. We've got John. He's talking about the love of God, all that kind of stuff. Type 3s. We got Jacob, brother, right, in the fighting with his brother in the womb. That's me, man. Let's get it done. Okay, type 4s, we got Joseph, right?
Oh.
You got that dream coat. He's dreaming.
Needed the coat, colorful.
He's all man.
Yeah.
Okay,
he's emotional
type 5s, we got Thomas.
He had to have proof. He needed
Show
proof.
me,
Yeah.
Show me.
man. Okay, type 6, we've got Peter. He's got, we got Peter there.
Yeah.
Okay, type 7, King Solomon. Okay, so the wisest man on earth, right? But he made some
variety with
variety
with the wives.
Wives.
A lot of wives.
He's not gonna settle down with
A lot of
one.
wives.
Nope. Yep. Okay. Type 8, we've got. You'll enjoy this one. Samson.
I like it and I hate it.
Why?
Well, because he did some really dumb stuff.
Everybody did.
And then, he has
You
to,
said it. I didn't say it.
he had to end his own life, because he's, blind and it just doesn't end well for him.
Yeah.
This one, the one that Robin found also says Samson. I just want to find a better.
You want a better one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep searching.
And then for the 9s, we got Jonah.
Oh, that's cute.
We got Jonah.
Cute.
You like that?
All the night.
Right? Because he's told to go and prophesy basically death to all these people, right? But he's
Yeah,
like,
and
can we
he's
just bring
like,
peace? Can we just bring?
I don't want to bring that message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you guys? I want to ask a question, but before I get to the question, I want to have you maybe look something up, or have Robin look it up. Do you guys have you told us it was really fun, on vacation?
I do remember. Do you have those memes?
I have them somewhere. Let me look them
Yeah,
up.
you look them up.
You do something else, and I'll
I'll
look
tell
them
you,
up.
we
Sarah,
love the
answer this other
Enneagram
question.
so much that we have typed both of our dogs as numbers
Oh my god.
because the dog lovers, not to the dog lovers. If you're a dog lover, you know that your dog has personality and you can kind of see where they fit.
You think dogs go to heaven?
Well, I think there are dogs in heaven, so I'm hoping that my dogs go to heaven.
God, there's not all dogs.
Okay, what do
Well,
you,
there were dogs
you
in
want,
the Garden of
you want-
Eden. There's
Not
animals
yet,
in
not yet.
heaven.
Okay.
You just come up with 3 or 4
Well,
great ones, man.
okay,
You use
okay.
your best judgment.
I got you.
Okay, so a lot of people are asking about wings. So while he's finding this,
Oh, I'm ready to go. I've achieved what you asked for.
okay, well we're not ready.
But acknowledge I
Put your
achieved
t-shirt
something.
away. Put your t-shirt away. Sarah, talk real quick. What wings? Can you have 2 wings? If I'm an 8, can I be a 8 wing 7-9? Just talk about what does that mean? How do you find out what your wing is? Figure that out.
So once you know what your dominant type is, then you can look at the 2 wings on the side and see where you most lean as you learn more about the behaviors and the motivations. And it's good if you can have both. So you can tap into both of your wings, and that's something that would serve you well because you can tap into your 7 and your 9. And that would just make you an even more
balanced.
More balanced.
With 2 wings.
Yeah, right. So
Yep.
you're an 8, which means you're a challenger. You've got a big force, but you've also got this wing of a 9, which brings in some of that peace, and so you can bring in a little bit more of compassion, a little bit more, right? And then you also have that 7, right, which brings in a little bit more creativity and a little bit more of, hey, maybe I can let my guard down a little bit and have some fun for a minute, right? You can tap into that little bit of excitement and energy, right? So you're not just this bulldog just going for it, right? You can tap into some of those wings that kind of maybe you could say for an 8, maybe softens that a little bit for you.
Mm-hmm.
You got anything else on wings? No, good. Okay.
But okay, so a big question is people ask about wings is the idea to balance them and try to be and I think that the goal for the Enneagram is to really understand your number, lean into it, but also do balance out a little bit more. And again, like we said, with your 8, if you just ignore your wings, you'll just go ahead and just bowl straight forward. But those wings can help soften you and let you have a little bit more fun. Because 8s just want to work all day long and just grind. But that 7 can help soften that. Say, well, let's just have some fun. Let's have some creativity. That 9 can say, okay, well, maybe I can, slow down and just sit with somebody a little bit and just not just solve it and move forward. And so it does help some to balance you out a little bit. And then again, like we talked about, you had, I think you said it was like a 1 tendency as well. Again, so like understand that 1, like that's part of who you are too. You are very detailed. I mean, you do walk into a room and you're like, 3rd row, 4th chair is off. Like you see that, right? And that's a part of who you are. And so I think understanding that is important too. And not just saying like, oh, well, I'm not going to do anything about a 3 because I'm an 8, or I'm not going to do anything with a 1. It's like, no. Like understand those as well. And so that's a big part of it.
In the wing, it also has to be directly
Yes.
to the right or left of your number.
Yes,
Okay.
has to touch your main number. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we're an hour in, so we're gonna end this with his memes. But Sarah, you wrote some stuff down. What did you write? What I'm been curious. There's notes, and was that?
So we talked a little bit at the retreat about time, and then there's also stances. There's a lot more that we could get into. Oh, we also talked about triads. Do you want me to hit on any of those?
No.
Okay.
We're gonna save it.
Okay. That's really good stuff.
For that leadership night.
Maybe we'll talk about something. So,
Okay.
stances, triads, time, and then
There's intelligence centers.
And then there's everything's kind of in. Yeah, talk about
In triads?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, they
we're
come
not
in
gonna do-
groups
we're
of
not
3.
gonna- we're not
What
gonna
about time real quick? Because that one's pretty,
do- Okay, do that.
just do the time.
Okay, so orientation to time. This is kind of
This
a
has
good
helped
clue
us with our kids
when you're
a
looking
lot.
at your children.
Yep,
Yes,
for sure.
So the 3 numbers that are past oriented are 4, 5, and 9.
So they're constantly thinking about what happened in the
They're
past.
thinking about the
What-
past. Yes.
They're looking back often.
Yes, like and a kid who's past time oriented might be like, oh, I wish it was like it was in 3rd grade, or I wish I had the teacher that I had when I was in kindergarten. It was better then. They're kind of thinking back. The present orientation numbers are 1, 2, and 6, and so they're thinking of right now. The future numbers are 3, 7, and 8. They are constantly thinking of what is next, what's ahead, what's
Vision.
coming. Yeah.
You want to know what's coming.
So you
down
can
the road.
see in relationships how easily you can clash when you're trying to solve something or work on a project together, or solve something in a marriage relationship, and the way that you talk is in the past and the way that your spouse talks is in the future. You guys really got to meet in the middle.
Yeah. So like, for example, Sarah's always trying to remind me like, hey, don't be so focused on the present or on the future that you can't enjoy the present. Because I'm always thinking about the next project, the next thing we got to go. But she's like, but you got to be present with us right now.
I think, and I answer this question a lot, and it hasn't changed. And I've still tried to change it, but this helps me understand how I'm wired. But a lot of times people say, if you could speak to 20-year-old Adam, or 37 now, so when we relaunched, what's now Victory Family Church, I was 30, so if you could speak to 20-year-old Adam, or if you could speak to 30-year-old Adam, what would you say? And I just always say, enjoy the ride.
Totally.
Because I've been so, what's next, that I think God's done so many amazing things, and I think the one thing that kind of sucks about that, I do feel like I got a lot of vision, let's move, but it does kind of suck at times. I feel like even maybe with my kids, I'm pushing. It's like, man, I gotta stop and just enjoy the moment. So I do think some of this kind of stuff, it helps us kind of understand where we miss it a little bit. And then I do want to speak. So we talked about kids, we talked about marriage. I do want to speak just real quick about business leaders. I'll just say for myself, we got 50. Is that right? 56 people on staff now. It's been a game changer, and it has nothing to do. I know a lot of people when I say stuff like this, like, oh, church world is different. It's not. People are people, and so I just want to encourage business owners. Like, it doesn't matter what your employee does. It's like, oh, they're just doing this, they're just doing that all day long. I promise you, it helps tremendously. It's helped me. I know I have a long way to go, but it's helping.
Yeah, we go into marketplace communities all
You
the time.
probably do that as much or more than you do churches, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so give us some. It's already been we're right at an hour, so give us some fun stuff.
Oh, at the beach. All right, Enneagram types at the beach. Type 1, rinse off your feet before you go in the house. Do not bring that mess into my house. Type 2 says, here, use my sunscreen. I've got plenty of snacks for everyone. No need to pay me back. I'm here to serve. Type 3 says, I'm just going to do a teeny tiny bit of work before everyone else wakes up in the morning. Or, this is how I eat clean while on vacation, because they still have to achieve something there. Type 4 goes to the most secluded area and stares off into the ocean. 3 hours goes by. This is magnificent. Just taking it all in. Type 5, collecting seashells and leaves and noting the bird prints. So they're going to learn something while they're there. Type 5 says, I have SPF 100 if you need it. 'Cause I'm there for you.
That's type 6, right?
That was type 6.
six.
Oh, what did I say?
You said 5. But
Type,
6.
that was type 6. Type 7 says, let me bury you in the sand, and when strangers walk by, you can yell weird things at them. It'll be funny.
It's very Christian.
Is that funny too? Type 8 says, I bet I could hold my head underwater for 5 minutes. You want to challenge me to it? Type 9 says, I think I'm going to stay in this time. You all have fun. That's awesome.
Give
Those are
us
good.
one more. You got to get another good one. Answer this question. He's looking up another one. This is a great question. Sarah, do you guys see your current number in your past/younger self?
Absolutely.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
you would say your number has been with you.
My
So
entire
do you look
life.
back
Yes.
at some of the stuff that you did even in your teenage years and think, it makes sense. I don't know why I felt like that, I don't know why I acted like that, I don't know why this happened. So it does.
Yes. Oh, 100%. So in my oneness, in my younger self, I was much more rigid and controlling. And so I can look back and see how God has freed me from that spirit of perfectionism to where I can relax and know that what I do, whether it's good or bad, actually doesn't define who I am and doesn't define how God sees me. But I can absolutely see how in the past I was like, it has to be this way and I have to do it this way for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You got another one?
You ready?
Yeah.
Days off.
So good. Let's do it.
How the
spend?
numbers,
Spend their days off.
How you spend your day off.
how you
Yeah.
view your days off. Type 1, perfect time to finish that house project.
Yep. Get it done.
Type 2, accidentally agrees to help somebody out. Type 3, either no days off or full on Netflix and chill. Because it's either or, right? Type 4, the perfect playlist to make the day feel like you're in a movie. Type 5, soaking in that much deserved alone time. Type 6, checking in on your loved ones. Type 7, hour for hour completely filled with activities and plans. Type 8, what's a day off?
And so hopefully this was helpful. If you don't mind, share it, like it, comment on something, and I do think it'll help a lot of people. So if those of you that attend VFC, or if you don't, you live in the Norman area, is there a link for Neon or anything? Like on the thing? You know, Rob's about to put a link for Neon. So if you want to buy tickets, go and buy tickets now. They are selling quick, and so I'd love for you to get your tickets. And then Sunday, I'm going to continue in the series Antenna, How to Hear the Voice of God. So look forward to seeing you this weekend. Thanks, guys. So good. So
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
fun.
guys.
Thank you.
See y'all.
Bye.